Hey, thanks for joining us here on the Main Street Maury High School Football Preview Show for Week 3. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Chris Yao. Chris, we get started quick this week. Second week in a row, we've got a Thursday night game as Spring Hill travels up Interstate 65 into Metro to take on Maplewood in a matchup of two winless squads thus far.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup because, over the last couple of years, this game has been really, really good. When both teams were good a few years ago, and when both teams have struggled the last couple of years, so it's been a really competitive game in recent memory.
Yeah, I think it will be that again this time around as Maplewood comes off of, again, a couple of losses against Hunters Lane in the opener and BGA last week. But I'm expecting it to be, like you said, a competitive ball game. Spring Hill, really competitive in their 18-13 loss at home to Mount Pleasant last week. So I think they're going to come into this game with some confidence. And looking forward to seeing Trey Isaac get back on the field after not playing last week because of some flu-like symptoms that kept him out of practice. So,
well, yeah, I think that's going to be a big for Spring Hill if they can get him for sure.
Speaking of I-65, Independent Centennial, I guess you got to kind of come off 65 and come across 840 to get to Indy from Centennial. But a couple of Williamson County teams going at it, and Centennial's off to a great start.
Yeah, this is one of those teams that we knew had some athletes going into the season. The quarterback position was a little bit of a question mark. Elisha Nieves has stepped into that and has played really well for the Wildcats to this point. Or Cougars, sorry.
Cougars.
Yeah, I know. All the alliteration, and I still missed it. But yeah, Independence really bounced back last week. I'm really curious to see how they're able to take the momentum from last week in that big win over Page. Showed
a lot of resilience in that 30-27 3 overtime victory, and not afraid to put the game on the foot of Landrick Maeski. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun ball game to watch, I think. Next up, Green Hill, another team that's off to a great start at Summit. Green Hill has outscored its first two opponents by 67 points. Summit won 40-0 against Spring Hill and lost 42-0 against Centennial.
Yeah, kind of feast or famine for the Spartans. And Cannon Burrows, the quarterback for Green Hill, is really going to be, he's a guy that you have to pay attention to no matter what. Despite being a sophomore, he has really stepped into that role and played really well to this point. And they put points up like nobody's business. So Summit's defense is going to have to step up, or they're going to have to shorten the game with that patented Brian Coleman 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
That will help, I think. I think that will help immensely if they are able to do that. Region 5-2A play beginning this week, and a new matchup in that region as Harpeth goes to Loretto.
This is one of the matchups that's kind of hard to talk about because I just don't know a lot about Harpeth. Obviously, they're in the Main Street Preps coverage area, but they're one of those teams you don't hear a lot about. And as I was making the helmet schedule, I thought, what's their mascot? I mean, I didn't even know. Mm-hmm. And so obviously Loretto is coming off a major victory.
That's a big time
against Lawrence County, and getting them at home last week was huge. So I think this is going to be a really interesting battle between the high of coming off of beating Lawrence County and realizing that game doesn't matter because this is what matters for the playoffs. So how does Loretto respond after being on that high?
I am really fascinated by the offensive balance that Loretto has shown thus far with the quarterback, Carter Daniel, and those receivers, and with the run game that they've been able to put together as well. So, if they continue to do that, they're destined to have a lot of success, I feel like. A game that was moved. This was
Yes.
supposed to be Columbia Central at Hunters Lane. Instead, it's Hunters Lane at Columbia Central. Both these teams coming in 1-1. Hunters Lane won their opener. Columbia Central won last week over Dixon County.
Yeah, I was there for that one, and Caden McCoy was the catalyst for that Columbia Central offense.
Caden McCoy was Caden McCoy.
Yes, he was, very much so, and they needed him because they didn't have a lot of extra help in the backfield. They got a couple of young kids that they let handle the football, and Kason Tice completed just one pass last week. Now, it did go for a 40-yard touchdown to Jordan Davis, which they have the ability to do. And they don't like to throw the ball a lot. When they do, they want to hit something big just to kind of keep you honest. And so I think that's really where Columbia Central is right now. So I'm curious if they'll even have to throw a pass this week.
Well, if they don't have to, they probably won't.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So, Region 5 5A play. Lawrence County. We used to refer to it as the pit, but it's not nearly as intimidating anymore when you go to Lincoln County. Both those teams coming in at 1-1. Lincoln County survived at Richland in their season opener and then dropped one this past week to Davidson Academy. Lawrence County defeated Summertown, as we said, lost to Loretto last week. But I really like what Lawrence County is doing offensively in particular. They're just mashing you with those three running backs in that offensive line.
Well, and that's, when I saw them play at Marshall County last year, they had an opportunity to win that game because of that. Again, they shortened the game. They force you to play their style of football. And when they do that, and they're typically successful because they're so big up front. I mean, they are just so big and physical up front. And they've got
those backs are big
so
and physical
athletic
as well. I mean, Ian Clayton is probably the smallest of the three, but when Bentley and Everly are pounding you in the middle and you get sucked down in, and then Clayton gets the edge, he's gone. His 2 touchdowns last week for 69 and 67 yards.
Yeah.
So
you'll take that. They've got 500 and almost 600 yards on the season
between them.
So
yeah,
that's solid.
Mentioned Summertown, the 0-2 Eagles going to 2-0 Hickman County in Region 5 2A play this week. And, don't want to necessarily speak negatively, but Hickman County's 2-0 is a little deceptive, I think, because one of them was over a Houston County team that has now lost 27 straight, the longest losing streak in the state. And the other was
now that Glencliff has snapped theirs.
Right. And the other was against McEwen, coached by Summertown's former coach.
Oh, wow.
Until about 2 months ago, Rick Rice. I think Dan Winfrey is getting these kids caught up quickly. They were terribly competitive against Lawrence County. I think they got worn down against Wayne County last week in an ultimate 40-26 loss. But
and Wayne County showed a lot of positives in that loss to even Mount Pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Wayne County may be a team to watch out for in that regard. But yeah, I really feel like Summertown has had to have a lot of young kids step up. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be some of those kids
probably weren't ready and may still not be ready.
There's going to be some growing pains with that. But if this young group sticks it out, I think they're going to be really good in a couple of years. But this is a game that I think that if Summertown's going to win a couple of games, they need to win this.
This might be one of them. Absolutely. Also in Region 5 2A, 2 teams that have had some success of late. Waverly, a newcomer to this region. Mount Pleasant won this region last year, both of them coming in at 2-0. Waverly, you talked about Green Hill being able to score points. Waverly is averaging a bunch. And they opened with a 71-50 win at Camden. They're averaging
that was a basketball score.
Exactly. They're averaging right at 60 points a game.
Jeez.
Bryce Stanfield, I assume he's the younger brother of former Mr. Football Gavin Stanfield, rushed for 367 against Fairview last week.
367. Jeez.
367. Mount Pleasant, meanwhile, dealing with some injuries. Kevin Cooper out for the year with a knee. Jaden McClure did not play last week against Spring Hill because of a knee. Not sure what his status is for this week. And so they're kind of trying to piece together a running game. But you still got Darian Meza, still got Nick Brown, and those guys can make plays.
Yeah, I think this is going to be this is going to tell us a lot about Mount Pleasant. It's going to tell us a lot about this region, and you definitely don't want to be dealing with injuries to two of your best players in this game if you're Mount Pleasant. So you hope
and you definitely don't want to lose this game when you're trying to play for a region championship at home.
Right. This is going to be a massive, massive game. So I'm looking
I think it's more massive for Mount Pleasant, but yes, it's massive for this region either way.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to keeping up with it throughout the night.
Yeah. Finally, all of those games that we mentioned are 7:00 kickoffs. Columbia Academy goes to Friendship Christian for a 7:30 kickoff on Friday night. And Columbia Academy coming off a huge win last week over at Webb behind junior running back Monte Baldwin, 256 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. Our Main Street Maury player of the week this week, by the way.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting ball game. The Commanders come in with a lot of momentum off that 35-13 win against Donaldson Christian. Of course, Monte Baldwin is massive for this team. So I think they're going to have another big night from Monte.
Absolutely. When we come back, we're going to give you picks on all of these games, and we've been pretty good at it so far. So stay with us.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Welcome back to the Main Street Maury High School Football Preview Show for Week 3. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Chris Yao. Chris, let's tell folks who's going to win in Week 3.
Yeah, to this point, we're both 11-3 on the year, so you got a pretty good shot if you're listening to us. We'll start with Spring Hill at Maplewood on Thursday, and again, this is one of those. If you're going to win some games this year, you feel like you need to win this one. I'm torn here, but I'm going to go with Maplewood because they're at home.
I'm going to go with Spring Hill just because I liked a lot of what I saw out of them last week against Mount Pleasant.
They certainly put up a good fight against a really good Mount Pleasant team. I agree.
Exactly.
Centennial is at Independence. I'll be there. You can follow me at Chris Yao 14 for updates. 2-0 Cougars, 1-1 Eagles. In this one, I really feel like that it's going to come down to offense. And right now, I think Centennial's got the better offense, so I'm going to go with the Cougars.
I'm going to go with the Cougars as well, but I will warn Jamal Stewart and CCCHS, don't let it be close because Landry Majewski can beat you.
Green Hill at Summit. Summit coming off that big 42-0 loss against Centennial. Green Hill coming in rolling. I think the Hawks get the win here.
I agree. I just don't think Summit has enough firepower to keep up with this Green Hill team at this point.
Harpeth at Loretto. Loretto 2-0. They continue that and roll.
Yeah, speaking of firepower,
the
Mustangs have got it. Horsepower.
Yes, horsepower. There you go. Hunters Lane at Columbia Central. This is going to be an interesting game. I think Columbia Central wins it pretty easily, but just because they've got more athletes.
I think they've got more athletes. I think last week's win did a world of good for them from a confidence standpoint. Yeah.
Lawrence County at Lincoln County over at the pit. I think Lawrence County's they've got the athletes in the backfield. They've got the big guys up front. I think Lawrence County wins this one.
Agreed.
Summertown goes to Hickman County. Man.
Mm-hmm. This is a tough one.
This is a tough one. I think knowing how to win is going to be the difference for the Bulldogs.
I think it's the Bulldogs. I think it's close because, again, to your point, one, Hickman County's at home. Two, until Summertown wins one, I don't know that they do know how to win one. So, yeah.
Big one, Waverly at Mount Pleasant, both 2-0. Should be a great game. I'm going to go with Waverly here. I think the injuries are going to be a problem for Mount Pleasant, and that's the only reason I'm picking Mount Pleasant to lose. If these two teams were both 100% healthy, I think I'd go with the Tigers at home, but I can't do it here.
I really do. Well, they're both Tigers for one thing.
That's why I said it.
But I do like the home Tigers. I just don't like them in this ball game. I just think Waverly has too much offensively, and with the injuries that Mount Pleasant's dealing with, I think it's going to be tough for them to overcome. I think it's Waverly. I think it's close.
Finally, Columbia Academy goes to Friendship Christian, 7:30 kick on Friday. Friendship Christian is coming off a state championship performance. They made it last year. They won it. They won it. Okay. So the Commanders, defending state champs, I think they're going to get the win in this one as well. But I think this will be a very, very competitive ball game. I think it's going to be a very close ball game. Don't count the Bulldogs out.
I think Columbia Academy is going to be in every game they play. I think Friendship Christian is probably going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more athletic, and I'm thinking that's going to be the difference in this one, particularly at FCS.
There you go.
That'll do it here for the Main Street Maury High School Football Preview Show for Week 3. Keep up with us at mainstreetmaury.com, at Chris Yao _ no underscore. Chris Yao 14 on Twitter. I'm at Patton _ sports on Twitter, and follow us this weekend. We'll see you.